If you can't sell a furnace for 10,000, you cannot sell one for 5. I'm just telling you. That's how it is. And these are very basic principles that you need to learn. Guys, it is easier to learn sales, in my opinion, than it is to learn the technical side of our trade.
Welcome to the Waste No Day podcast, a podcast specifically for and about the home services industry as it relates to plumbing, heating, air conditioning, and electrical. More than a podcast, Waste No Day is a credo, a determination, a mindset. It is a never-ending discipline. It is a refuse to lose pursuit. It is a wake-up call every morning to waste no day. Now here's your hosts, Brian Burton and Nate Minnick.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Waste No Day podcast. Your host, Nate, and just Nate today. That's right. Brian is off. I'll get to that in just a minute, but he's not able to join us for this intro. He will be with us later for the interview that we have coming up, and that's with our main guest today. That is Gene Slade. We're going to have a great conversation with him today to talk about none other than in-home sales, baby. It's going to be good stuff. And we're going to turn to myself for the quote because Brian's not here. And so this is a short one. It's by Babe Ruth, and it just says, "Yesterday's home runs don't win today's games." And it's a constant reminder that no matter what we are doing, we always have to improve. We can't rest upon the laurels of yesterday. We have to always be pushing forward and reclaiming today and whatever the events or the objections that are going to come our way. It's going to be a great show. Looking forward to it. And because of that, we're going to spend a whole lot of time in the intro here. I do want to just pause here and explain why Brian is not joining us. For reasons unbeknownst to everybody in the world, despite moving to Arizona with a climate of 125 degrees Fahrenheit, he is caught in a snowstorm and cannot join us for the introduction. That's right, a snowstorm. It boggles the mind why one would move to the desert where literally plastic trash cans melt and yet somehow still manage to find himself stuck in a snowstorm. It is clearly something to be concerned about. And we are very concerned for not only his health, his safety, but also his state of mind as he is now trapped in a hotel with nothing but his family and the Detroit Lions to watch suck on national television. Regardless of that, please send prayers, hopes, and other kind things his way as he endures such a difficult situation. His family's fine. It's the Detroit Lions that I'm really concerned about, but he'll push through, and I'm sure he'll be able to join us for the interview with Gene, and we'll get to that in just a minute. And what we're going to be talking about today is, of course, sales. And so in-home sales is one of Gene Slade's specialties. He's been on the show a number of times before. In fact, if you're interested in that, please make sure you go back and check out the episodes. There's actually 2 of them from October 25th, 2021, where he talked about jargon, the best sleeping pill, and June 28th, 2021, where he talked about helping other people get what they want. Both of those were excellent episodes, especially the jargon one, which I know Brian has made required listening for his crew at his shop there in Arizona. Hopefully he's even able to get back to his crew, which is really in doubt now because of this desperate snowstorm in the middle of the desert, but somehow he'll find a way. We know that. Another person who's going to find a way is Gene Slade, and he always does find a way to overcome objections, and he does it so in such a way that is clever and makes you just really ponder what he's going to be talking about. Looking forward to getting to know more about what he's been doing at not only his sales training, but also just what he's been doing in general. We're going to talk about a couple of those things with him in a minute. For right now, though, it is that special time of the week, and because Brian's not here, I get to be the one who picks the review. Of course, we're going to look for a little chirp review because why wouldn't we? But sadly, there was none recently to read. So it looks like we'll have to stick with this one from JPMB125. Little less on the creative juices there on the name, but we'll take it. It says, "Unlock success, 5 stars. To succeed, cultivating the right attitude and maintaining consistent process is key. And these guys know this. If you have the drive to expand your horizons and accomplish more, their podcast provides essential insight you need to set yourself up for success. Thank you, JPMB125. Appreciate that. And we're always grateful when you and anybody else takes the time to write us a review, let us know how we're doing, give us some feedback. 5 stars, we appreciate that. Of course, call Brian out, tell him that he talks too much, because we all know that. And so really, I would love to see a lot more reviews that say, would rate this 6 stars, but Brian's on the podcast. So please make sure you add that into next week's reviews, and we'll try to get to them as quickly as possible. I'll, of course, even front load them. If I see one of those come in, I'll front load that, because we're going to cut that review up to the front of the line, because it's so important and so critical. For right now, though, we're going to turn our attention to Mr. Gene Slade, who is also so critical and so important, and we're going to put him in your passenger seat. Our guest today is Gene Slade. He is the CEO and main trainer at Lead Ninja, as well as many other entities that he's doing. He's been in the business for decades now. He started off in HVAC and mastered the IAQ sales process. He's run businesses and has spent the last number of years traveling around the country training and providing online training as well. Like I mentioned, he's been on the podcast before, so you can go back and listen to more of his bios there if you care to. But for right now, we're going to welcome Gene to the show. Welcome here, buddy.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you and Brian having me on. You guys are the bomb. I've had so many people that have told us that they have heard us on the Waste No Day podcast. So you guys are really, really getting traction from what I've seen. So congratulations on that, guys.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you, man. You were instrumental in that in the beginning, because I don't know if you remember. Yeah, right. Like Gene doesn't remember this, but your first episode was #1 in downloads on Waste No Day for what, like 6 months, Nate?
Yeah, I had a long run.
Until I want to say it was Brandon Voss knocked it out.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to say that you guys had a larger listenership at that point, and mine was just buried.
Yeah, I want to say it might have been Chris Voss's son, who's the president of the Black Swan Group, who most, I would say like 80% of the people I've talked to about both episodes said Brandon's episode was far better than Chris's, because he really dug into the role play and like was very engaging and exciting,
I've watched
so that
a lot of
#1
Chris's stuff.
Yeah,
I love Chris Voss's stuff, and I haven't spent as much time observing Brandon, but I think I'm going to have to just put that on the checklist. Maybe
I'll send you a really good episode of his. Don't worry.
Sweet. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I need the distraction for sure.
It'll probably sound a lot like this format. You might even hear Nate and Brian in there.
Yeah. Don't lean too far to your right, man. You're going off the screen, Brian.
See, it's always a sales guru who's checking me for that. Brian Tracy beat me up for it too.
I'm only saying it because Brian did. Nate, what are you going to say, baby?
Well, Gene, it's been a while since we've had you on. In fact, it's actually over 2 years. The last time you were on, you were talking about jargon, the best sleeping pill, and that's back from October 25 of 2021. You actually did 2 episodes that year, doing a master series on helping other people get what they want back in June of that year. So it's been a minute, and we're excited to talk to you again, because we always know you bring good content regarding sales, closing, and all things in between. But before we jump into the content here, for those of our listeners, I should say, who maybe are not familiar with you or who have kind of forgotten who you were from the last time they heard you, why don't you give us a little bit of a preview about your life, your bio, how you got into what you're doing and everything there.
Sure. So I'll give you the quickest elevator speech that I can. So I grew up around the trades. My father owned his own air conditioning company. My uncle owned his own plumbing company. And when I was 11, the summer of me turning 11, my father said, "Boy, you want food, you want clothes, come to work." He was a one man in a truck guy. Occasionally he had a helper, but I was cheap labor. So he threw me in the passenger seat every morning and we went to work. And after I'd say 3-4 years of his tutelage and teaching, I was ready to go out on my own when I was 15 and do installations. So he hired a 21-year-old driver for me to train on the installation side. And I became the second truck in our business. I ended up going off to school, went to college, for wrestling and had an accident there where I broke some of my ribs. And so I ended up coming back to Michigan, getting back into the HVAC side of the trades and did installations, ended up eventually working my way up into getting a sales position because I was installing a job one day and I was making about 40 grand a year at the time. And this is back in the early 2000s. And I heard that the salesman who had no experience in HVAC was making over 100 grand a year at the time. And it just blew my mind. And I was like, that's the job I need. Because as a kid, I was always budgeting, like I was a math kid. So I'd be sitting in school and I'd be calculating how much do I need for a house? How much do I need for a car? Like I was always trying to figure it out. And that $100,000 number was like an elusive number for a lot of people back then, right? And so I decided that I wanted to go out and get into sales and eventually ended up doing that. Several years later, ended up moving down to Florida, helping a company grow in Tampa. We became the 8th fastest growing company in all industries in all of Tampa Bay. And then one day I was the general manager of the company and I was training everybody. And I had recently went and taken my contractor's exam. Now, mind you, I didn't have any books. I just went to see what was on the exam and I accidentally passed it. And my boss found out that I passed the test. Yeah, it was an accident, Brian. I was just going to look and see what was on the test. I just wanted to kind of get a preview. And I ended up passing it, son of a gun. And like 4 days later, my bosses pulled me into the office and said, your services are no longer needed. And I was like, why? And they're like, well, you passed your contractor's exam. I'm like, how you know that? I didn't even get it in the mail, right? I haven't even gotten any of that stuff. And I don't have a license. It's one thing to pass the test. It's a whole different thing to go through the process of setting up a business, right? So I was not ready to be in business. I didn't think I was, but I knew how to sell and I knew how to market. I was on a radio show for them and I was generating 30, 40 new customers a week for that company on talk radio. And so when I got fired, I said, I had a 5-week-old baby boy. I had just signed a new lease for $2,100 a month in a really great house there in Valrico, Florida. And I had a 50-mile non-compete. So I'm like, crap, I got to move at least 50 miles. I got to teach another owner because look, at the end of the day, a lot of the owners out there that are $500,000, $1 million, $2 million, they just don't know a lot of the best practices, right? And we'd grown from $1.5 million to $7 million in 3 years under myself and another guy. And so I just had to make the decision, do I go out and do that again for another company or do I go do it myself? And so I decided to go out. I didn't have any money. I literally been paying off all my debt. I had $100 between 4 bank accounts. So I ended up going and I took out 21 credit cards and I'm like $75,000 in credit cards. And I moved to Southwest Florida, 120 miles south, started my own air conditioning company. And then boom, 6 years later, we were selling it for a 7-figure profit. We were the 59th fastest growing construction company in the country, privately held. So that was in my mid-30s, right? And so I at that stage of the game, I sold the company and I had a non-compete. So I was in semi-retirement. And about 5 months later, I started Lead Ninja, which ended up selling radio shows like I had been doing. And then once I started selling those radio shows, we had all these leads and technicians not closing them. And all the companies started having me come out and show them how to close IAQ, water treatment, stuff like that, which is part of the way that we ended up meeting, right? And when I ended up coming out and doing an on-site with you guys. So now most of our business is training salespeople, technicians, how to, increase their average ticket, increase their closing ratio, and do it in an ethical, honest, moral, and legal way. Right? There's so much clean money in this business. You don't have to lie, cheat, and steal. There's so many things that clients want if they just really know about them and if you go about it the right way. So, that's where we're at today, and we've got some awesome artificial intelligence stuff going on now for business owners. But that's really the journey, and where we are today is as concisely as I could put it. I hope that didn't take too long.
Not at all. And it's because of that background, Gene, that you bring so much to the show in terms of selling, and you've done it in the field. You've taught others to do it in the field with success, and great success, I might add. And so that's where I want to start today. If it's okay with you, what I want to do is I want to progress from the amateur, if you will, through kind of the years of experience and work our ways up to the people who are already succeeding at a high level but just need that additional tweak. So as you've done your training, your one-on-ones, your group sessions, your live in-person events, all those types of things, when you come across some greenhorns, some amateurs, some fresh meat, if you will, and you're looking at them and they're looking at you, what are some of the most common things that they're struggling with? Whether it's out of ignorance, like they just don't know what they don't know, and they don't know how to deal with it, or whether they're just blatantly doing it wrong because they think that this way is better and it's not. What are some of those things that the amateurs traditionally are struggling with, and how can we begin to overcome them?
Man, that's a great question. So the amateurs, they struggle with just not having a process at all most times. And like, think about if you're a business owner out there or you work for a company, do they actually have a training process where they bring you in once a week or twice a week or 5 times a week and show you how to answer the door or approach the door, exactly what to say when the client says it's over in the garage, I'll hit the button and let you in, how to maintain control of the call? It's all about process that they don't have in the beginning, right? So that's one side of it. But as you were asking the question, I was also thinking a lot of what I look for in these people that come out to these events that we throw is, are they humble and are they hungry? If a guy doesn't have those two characteristics, then to me, like, I don't really even want to work with that person, because I'm going to have a hard time breaking through and helping them. It's not that I want them to do what I say. It's that I want to see them achieve success and have the ability to pass that on to other people, because that's where their joy will truly come from. But from a process standpoint, that's a big thing. The other thing is, a lot of people have a misconception about what sales really is. It's not about being flashy and talking a lot. And isn't that what we a lot of times think about when we think about a salesperson?
Yeah.
Somebody who's flashy, somebody who's got a silver tongue, somebody's going to convince me to do something that I don't want to do and make me think I want to do it, and then I'm going to feel bad about it afterwards. And that's not what a true professional salesperson is at all, guys. Like, if a true professional salesperson walked into this room with 3 of us right now, we wouldn't even know that they were a salesperson. I had a mentor who used to say that true salespeople are chameleonic, and they listen more than they talk. And I also think that the amateur, as you call them, or the greenhorn, they're uncomfortable with silence, Nate. That's something that you get more comfortable with as you become better at predicting what's going to happen and knowing that you have a solution to anything that the client is going to say. There's an anxiety that they have. And when they have that anxiety and they don't know which direction the call's going to go and they're anxious about that, they'll begin to talk more. And I don't know how you guys think, but I believe that you talk your way out of more sales than you will ever talk your way into.
Yeah, so, for sure.
We're supposed to listen our way into sales. And I promise you, listeners, if you will truly learn how to listen to clients, they will tell you exactly what to say in order to get them closed. But you'll never be able to listen to them completely until you're confident that if they say, I want to think about it, you know exactly what you're going to say. If they say, I want to talk to my spouse, you know exactly what you're going to say. And you've succeeded at getting a deal closed after they've said that in the past, right? So once you become truly confident with your ability to handle anything that a customer is going to say, which is not that hard because it's all patterns. I mean, doesn't everybody in the country here, I want to think about it, I got to talk to my spouse, I got to get other quotes, your price is too high?
Sure.
I mean, aren't those the top 4 objections for everybody in the country? So I heard we were talking about Andy Elliott before we come on here, right? I was watching a video by Andy Elliott, and Andy Elliott says, if somebody walked into this room and they walked straight up to you and they just slapped you right in the face, and then they kept going and they walked around the room and you're like, what the hell just happened? Right? The next time that person came by you in the room, would you be ready? Like, would you be ready to block something? Would you be on high alert? Well,
like a lead ninja.
Customers, there you go, right? Isn't that what's happening to you every day when the client says, I want to think about it, and you don't have a process to handle that? Like,
absolutely.
So Nate, those are the things that I think the biggest challenges that I see the new people coming into the industry and the greenhorns are having.
So with that, Gene, you mentioned that if you listen well to your client, they will tell you what to say. Give us an example of what that sounds like or how that actually plays out.
Cool. So a client says, I want to think about it. And my first response to them is, you want to think about it? And then I shut up. So I've turned their statement into a question and reversed it, right? Now, I'm going to do this, number one, in the early stages of becoming a good salesperson in order to give myself a minute to think. But what it really does is gives the client another opportunity to say something, right? Remember this. This is important. If somebody says they want to think about it, they already thought about it and they stopped thinking. It's a smokescreen. It's not a real objection. If it were free, would they need to think about it? No. So it's a price objection, but I got to get the client to say that. So I'll ask a question and then I will listen. I'll give them more opportunity to talk. So they said, I want to think about it. I said, you want to think about it? They're like, yeah, we've made snap decisions in the past and they haven't worked out for us. So we just like to think about things like this. Got it. I might say, can you say more about that? If I say, can you say more about that? They're going to open up and expand a little bit more. Maybe they even say, your price is too high. And I say, can you say more about that? Well, if they say my price is too high, how do you know exactly what they mean? Couldn't they mean multiple things?
Yep.
Couldn't they mean, this is higher than I had budgeted? I don't have the money for this. My neighbor got one for $5,000 cheaper 2 years ago. Like, there's so many different paths that they could go. So when they say your price is too high, and I say, can you say more about that? And I let them expand. Now I've got something I can handle. But if I just begin to play verbal tennis with them, your price is too high, and I just start selling and talking about why we're such a great company, I'm not getting to the root of what it is that their challenge is and what they're actually meaning. So I have to listen. I have to ask a question and listen. That's why I say, if you listen to a client, they will tell you how to close them. If they say, my neighbor got one for $5,000 cheaper, it's a different process. I'll at that point say, would you like to know why more people choose 1 hour for this type of work, regardless of any difference in price? Of course they're going to say, yes, I want to know. And now I get to brag about my company. If they say, it's higher than I had budgeted, it's a different response, right? Got it. So did you want me to show you something that's cheaper? Or did you want to do what most people do and put it on one of our easy payment plans, right? So it's different responses. And that's what I mean, Nate. And I don't know if we lost his internet or what, but Brian, that's what I mean when I say, if you listen to a client, they'll tell you exactly how to close it. But again, you need to know the path to go down once they say what they say. But the good news for all of us is that there's only 10 things or so that clients usually say 90% of the time. So if we can prepare for 10 things, holy cow, we can actually have the opportunity to be super successful. I mean, I'm talking doctor and lawyer money in the trades.
How many people do you have that you've trained? And let's say doctor lawyer money's over $250,000. How many people do you have that you've trained that are over that?
I've lost count, bro. I've lost count. I literally just had a guy that I met him at $2.7 million a year, and he literally just had his first $1,050,000 month. So he made $100,000 in commissions in a month. So like, and we're working on getting him to a place where he's doing 10 plus million a year. So like the $250,000 is just not as much money as people think it is. Right. So like, that's like nobody that gets certified through my company, nobody, and it's supposed to take 60 days. I've never had one person who's gotten a certification through our company that makes less than $150,000 a year. And I think that the one that's making the least amount of money right now is just over 200,000. So it's not what 100 grand won't buy you anything anymore. My nanny makes almost 100 grand. I'm serious. Like inflation is crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
So I hate to do this. No, I don't. I love to do this to people. Nate and I did an objections episode several weeks ago, and it was me in the most uncomfortable situation I could be in, which is trying to talk Nate into something he doesn't want to do. Which in this case, when you do what you're about to do and you role play with Nate and you role play until you get him to a yes, is making Nate do something he doesn't want to do, which is tap out. So I would like to see, and I know our listeners would love to hear Nate giving the I got to think about it objection, kind of moving into the price objection, and see where we go. You game?
Yeah.
All right, ninja size.
Yeah, 100%. No problem whatsoever. Let me wet my whistle with a Breathe Easy drink. So Nate's all like, man, Gene, you've been here for like 3-4 hours. We're like 99% sure we're going to go with you guys, right? We just need to think about it, right? Isn't that what they always say? You've been so thorough. We love you.
You're such a great salesman.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, and he goes, we just really need to think about it. And I'll go, you need to think about it?
I love the Chris. That's the Chris Voss mirror right there. I think we can get it cheaper. You think you can get it cheaper? Just over and over again. He does that. And he talks about in Never Split the Difference that his son and one of the employees was like, let's get Chris and let's keep doing it to him. And I think he even told the story on Waste No Day episode 100. Thank you very much. On the show where he was talking about it, where I think Brandon and one of their employees just did it to him for like several minutes, and he did not know they were doing it to him until they just started busting out laughing. Said it's that effective that
Chris.
You don't even know somebody's doing it to you when you halfway pioneered the thing, you know?
It's amazing. And one of my favorite things about him is going for the no. And we teach that all the time to prevent decision fatigue. But I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, and we should definitely touch on it. You know who Dylan Moya is, right?
I don't.
Do you know Dylan? Dylan's a $3 million, probably $3.5 million plumber out of Texas, I believe. He's been on the show a couple times. Does a great episode. We're in the Waste No Day Facebook group. One of the chats, like the book recommendation chat. You know how you have these little side chats in the group, and somebody just said, "I'm reading Never Split the Difference again," and Dylan caught me with a mirror when I made a comment, and I didn't realize it, and he laughed and said, "I did that," and he said, "I mirrored you," and I said, "You mirrored me?" I mirrored him back. Just going down the line, and he laughed like several comments later and said, "I just read back up and realized you got me." Like it was the same thing. I didn't realize he got me. I just immediately started explaining myself, and I'm like, son of a gun. They're so even in a text, they're so effective. The mirror. So don't start explaining. Don't ask the client. You don't even have to ask them what they mean. Just they say, this is something that this is a serious decision for us. We're going to have to take some time. You're going to have to take some time. No matter what the thing is, just put the burden back on them to talk and let yourself relax and listen. And it's I'm so glad you brought that up. It's such a great way to calm down a little bit and just listen and just be an ear instead of a mouth.
And it gives me some time if I'm an amateur salesperson to access the visual cortex of my brain and try to see what was on the script or the paper. You know what I mean? Every response that you guys have should be scripted. It shouldn't sound scripted, but it should be scripted. So Nate said I wanted to think about it, and I went, "You want to think about it?" And then Nate, what did you say? Like immediately, you're gonna give up on this easily for me.
All right, let's go. Let's run.
He was like something about the price.
Let's do it. Let's do it right now. All right, Nate, you're the client.
All right. Hey, Gene. Yeah, I mean, this all looks good and well and everything, but this is probably something that my wife and I are just going to have to spend some time thinking about. So I think that's what we're going to do for now. Okay.
That's not a problem. You're going to think about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not that we don't like what we're looking at. I mean, I think there's some things on here that could definitely be beneficial to our home. I'm just not sure the timing feels right for us right now. There's a lot of things going on. We're considering doing a house renovation, and we're trying to figure out where our finances are going to come from that. And then, of course, we have the holidays that we're considering as well. And, there's just some uncertainty, I don't really want to get into it personally, but there's some uncertainty at my job as well. So it's one of those things where I believe in what you're saying here, but there's a fair amount of question marks on my end, and I'm just not quite sure how to answer them right now.
So I would never be smiling while all this is being said, but holy shit, did you hear how much information I got from it? And
Not just how much information, but how many objections you just spit out at one time.
but they're all in alignment with one thing, and that's money.
That's right.
Right? One thing. Now, I do have to confirm a couple things with the client here, so I'll go, I got it. And that's not a problem, Nate. Before I take off, is there any doubt in your mind that this work needs to be done at this time?
No, I don't think I doubt the work needs to be done. If I'm being frank with you, Gene, I feel a little questionable about how much it costs to do the work. It's not that I doubt what you're telling. You're telling me stuff. You're a nice guy. I'm sure you know what you're talking about, and so I believe you when you say this is something that needs done. I've never done these things before, so this could be $2, $2,000, $20,000. I don't know, and like I said, it's just one of those things that I got to think about.
You need to play harder, right? Because he keeps telling me it's the money, and I want to go down the full chain for people. I don't want to shortcut this for the listeners, all right? But immediately I could go towards the money there. But let's say that I said, "Is there any doubt in your mind that the work needs to be done?" And Nate's like one of those reserve guys. And he goes, "No, there's no doubt in my mind." Now I got to go. Why? Why do you feel that way, Nate? What would you say?
You said there is no doubt in my mind.
Is there any doubt in your mind that the work needs to be done at this time?
No, there's no doubt in my mind.
Why? Why do you feel that way?
I mean, you made your case pretty plain that this is something that is going to be beneficial to not only our system, but our family. So I believe you.
Do you see how he couldn't hardly come up with anything? So I'll have to go out. And let's say we're talking about a replacement here. I'll go, you know what? I agree with you. Plus, it's old. It's inefficient. The parts are hard to come by. When we can find them, they're really expensive. You can be without heating or air conditioning overnight or longer. So, sure, I agree with you. It definitely needs to be done, right? We have to find out whether or not the client even feels like it needs to be done, because otherwise, there's no chance of closing that deal. You can fight with the client on objections all you want, but if there's no need established, if they don't believe that something needs to be done, if they're not more uncomfortable with the way that things are right now than they're supposed to be, then you're pissing in the wind, right?
Okay, so Gene, we have some amateurs out there saying, "Well, hang on a second, Gene. Not every customer has a hard to come by parts old system that's clearly inefficient and not working."
Sure.
And so what if I flip it around and say, "Well, Gene, if I'm being honest with you, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that this is something that needs to be done."
Perfect. We need to know that, right? Because once we determine that that's the case, we know that we did not get the customer to a place where they felt like something needed to be done before we tried to shove a product down their effing throat. Right? And too many of our technicians out there are just trying to sell a product. And that's where we go wrong. I don't believe in selling value as much as I believe in selling the problem. Okay? You got to talk about and sell the problem and get the client to come to a place where they're like, shit, something needs to be done about this. And then they ask you, and technicians, you've heard it a million times, what do we do about this? That's what happens when a client becomes concerned enough to feel like, okay, there's definitely a problem and I need to do something about it. But look, a lot of people's stuff is like, it's blowing cold. It feels good to me. Mama said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Don't touch it. Right? So the client has got to feel like there is a genuine need before we ever get to this stage of the game, or you effed up the process already. Right? And that's what sucks about just handling objections is you can't really have a definitive conversation about objection handling without discussing the entire process. But since we're already here and we've been to, I want to think about it. And I was like, you want to think about it? And you're like, yeah, all of these other things. And I go, is there any doubt in your mind that the work needs to be done at this time? If you tell me no, I got to go backwards. I can't handle objections anymore. I don't think it needs to be done.
So let's start over. Gene, resist the urge to teach right now. All right.
Okay.
Nate doesn't have to resist the urge. He's just like, let me get to bed. This makes him so much better at role playing a client, boy. Let me tell you. If this was noon his time and not 10 after 9 p.m., he'd be a much easier client. Let's start from scratch. Go through what comes out and navigate through, and then let's end, and then let's go back and take turns pontificating a little bit on what transpired. Does that sound good?
For sure, man. This is your show. Whatever you want,
I'm just because I'm loving what you're saying, but I'm like, I want to see it now. I want to hear it in action. Like I want to hear it play out from start to finish.
Well, we're close. Yeah, I agree with you.
All right. Hey, Gene. Thanks a lot for everything you did today. I appreciate you coming out here for a tune-up. We believe in keeping our system well maintained. From what I can tell, you're putting some things here on the table. This is definitely something that I'll consider, and I appreciate you informing me on things, but we're good for now. So thanks a lot.
Got it. You're good for now?
Yeah. I mean, the system is working. We are getting warm air. We're nice and toasty. I think what you have here on the table is definitely some bells and whistles, and that's definitely something that we'll take a look at, in the future.
Got it. This part of the list right here, is there any doubt in your mind that it needs to be done?
I mean, doubt's a strong word. I'm not sure I'd say doubt. I'm not sure it needs to be done right now.
Got it. And so, Brian, if he believes that it doesn't need to be done right now, I've got to go back to the beginning and I got to start establishing a need, right? So this doesn't work.
So you're presenting over.
Right? Exactly. Mm-hmm. So he's got to be to a place where he says, yeah, I believe that it needs to be done. And he's got to be hiding something.
At your level, we'll say at the level that we're at right now, Nate, for your sake, Gene's not closing right? You're not going to go move for a close if you don't think he knows it needs to be done.
Not at all. There's no reason to do that because now I'm fighting the client. I'm not doing something for them. I'm doing something to them.
Yeah. So let's go down the path of you're on board with it needs. Nate, this is a price concern, buddy. All right. Stay with us. Come on. I know
it always is, because if it was free, they would just do it, right? He's going to go, no, there's no doubt in my mind that it needs to be done. And I'm going to go, why? Why do you feel that way?
Let's go down that road. Nate, you ready? Nate, buddy, are you with us? Come on, buddy.
I'm here. Go. I'm all in. I am all in.
Price concern.
Just trying to think where I left off there.
Is there any doubt in your mind that the work needs to be done, Nate?
No, Gene. I think it's good stuff. I think it is something we would want to consider. Like I said, I'm not sure it's what we want to consider right at this minute.
Got it. Why do you feel like the work needs to be done?
Well, I mean, I think we do have a concern. We have a young family in terms of keeping our health as a priority. And also you mentioned about, how this can impact the efficiency of our system. We're not exactly tree huggers around here, but I don't like spending money with the utility company more than I have to, if that makes sense.
You don't have stock in Florida Power and Light?
No, no, I wish, you know what I'm saying? But that's those, and that's why I'm saying this is something that I think, I would absolutely be willing to consider, but yeah, probably more in the future than right now.
Got it. Is there any doubt in your mind about whether or not we're a good company to do this for you?
Not at all. No, you guys have always treated us well.
Why do you feel we'd be a good company to choose for this type of work?
I mean, you're responsive. I mean, look at you, you're like a freaking ninja over here, like every time you guys send somebody out here, you guys are dressed to the T. I love that. You always treat my wife well if I'm not home. In fact, the last technician who was out here, like he loved my dog. And that's, I don't know. I'm a believer that if my dog likes you, I like you. So that's a win for us. Besides that, I'm like a local owned type guy, and you guys have always been good to us. So.
No fucking customer is going to say all that, but if they said two or three things, like he's stroking me here, right? Customers would typically go, I don't know, I see you guys in the neighborhood all the time. You said that you guys are a good company. I'll go. Plus, that we're in over 10,000 homes a year, which means that we know the codes, the climates, the construction of the homes in the area. We know what works and we know what doesn't. Your job's not going to be a testing ground or a training lab. We're going to get done right the first time, which is going to save you time and money. We prioritize our warranty calls. So if anything ever goes wrong with this, you get a speed pass right to the front of the line, and you're not waiting overnight or over the weekend to get service. You get it right away. You know that we do drug testing and background checks, so the guys aren't going to be coked up or anything like that, which means that you, your belongings, your family, all that's safe. So yeah, I agree with you. We're definitely the right company for the job. Level with me, Nate. How do you feel about the money?
Well, if I'm leveling with Eugene, it's a lot. There's an extra zero in there that I wasn't expecting.
Got it. Do you have that much money?
Well, that's a pretty personal question. You mean right now in my wallet?
Do you have it?
Well, I told you we're considering a house renovation, so yes, we do. But I'm not sure that between the things that I have on my list of where I want the money to go and this right now, I feel conflicted.
Got it. Perfect. So you just don't have the money for this right now.
That's about as straight as I could put it.
Perfect. When do you think you have the money?
Sheesh. If we move forward with the house and the things we want to do there, it's probably going to be a couple of years till we would get kind of back to a place of accessorizing.
So you consider this accessorizing?
Accessorizing in the way that the system in its most essential form is doing what we need it to do. Yes.
Yeah. Again, I'm going to say I didn't establish a need. If I'm talking about an IAQ package, they don't care right now. I fucked up a long time ago. But if it's just about the money, I'm going to stay on the money, right? Got it. So it'll be maybe 3 years or so?
Yeah. That sounds about right.
On a weekly basis, what do you think you could afford and still put syrup on the pancakes? 10, 15, $20 a week?
Shoot, my wife spends that in Starbucks, so yeah, I think so.
So you could do $20 a week?
Yeah. I don't think that'd be a problem.
All right, initial right here, and I'll take care of it for you. $20 a week.
20 for what? For what you got there on the paper?
Yeah, all that stuff, all of it. Just initial right here.
$20. What am I paying the rest of my life?
That's the best part. You can pay it off whenever you want.
Okay. Sheesh, I wasn't really expecting you to say that.
I know, great, isn't it?
So you're saying that like everything here is $20 a week?
Yes, sir.
Well, that kind of puts it in a bit of a different perspective for me.
I agree with you. Just initial right here, and I'll take care of it for you.
You're making it hard, Gene. All right. You know what? I'll take you up on that. $20 a week. Let's do it.
Initial right here, and I'll take care of it.
Okay. Sign.
So it's okay if we look at your credit, right?
Yeah, sure. That shouldn't be a problem.
Just fill this out right here and let me know when you're done.
Okay.
Nice and soft. I'm gonna go get to work.
So good.
So, but in
like
the
butter.
beginning of that, it was clear that I had not established a need, right? So I would have debriefed that call afterwards and went, where did I F up that they didn't care about what's going on, or that it wasn't a priority, it wasn't urgent, right? And so can I give you guys an example of how to do that for your listeners? I know you know how.
Let's go.
But like, for instance, on a surge protector, let's just talk about a surge protector. So many guys just go out and try to sell the benefits of a surge protector and protecting everything in the house. I do it differently. I ask questions so the client can come to their own conclusion that something needs to be done. Once the client comes to their own conclusion that something needs to be done, most of my job is done. If I can just say as little as possible from that point, then things will go fine. So on a surge protection system, I would look at a client, if I was an electrician or an HVAC contractor, and I'd go, Mr. Smith, why don't you have surge protection? They'd be like, I don't know. And I'll go, did you know that we get over 1 million cloud-to-ground lightning strikes a year here? And that when that happens, we get in-home surges. And did you know that when we get an in-home surge, that your compressors and your motors can glow cherry red on the inside? Do you think that's good? This is the first time I'll wait. Do you think that's good? They're going to go, no. What do you suppose that does to the reliability of your system? Well, it reduces it, Gene. And how about the lifespan of the system? What do you think that does to it? Probably reduces that as well. Mr. Smith, have you ever purchased a new compressor before? No, I haven't. So you weren't aware that a new compressor is about $4,500 nowadays? No, I wasn't aware of that. Can you see now why all of our clients just get surge protection rather than replacing expensive compressors and motors, maybe even a whole new system? Now, I didn't say anything to the client. I didn't talk at them. I didn't make one statement. If you guys rewind the tape, listeners, if you rewind the tape right now, just hit backspace or that 15-second thing, like 4 or 5 times. You'll hear that I didn't make a statement. I started everything with, did you know, were you aware? And I'm watching the client's body language at this stage of the game to see, am I getting head nodding? Am I seeing any signs of concern at all? That's when reading the client comes into play, right? But I've got to ask them these questions to enlighten them. And also it allows me to bypass their truth-false filter, right? We all have got this truth-false filter. Whenever you hear something, you decide right away, is it bullshit? Right? You guys got a bullshit meter, right? Well, when I ask you, did you know or were you aware? You're not even thinking somebody's telling me something. I got to decide, decision fatigue, whether or not it's real or not. I just go right around that and you accept it as truth and you're enlightened by it, right? So when I help a client get to a place in their mind where they feel like this is a challenge or a problem or I'm unprotected, once that motivation is there to figure out what the solution is for them, I'm 90% of the way there. I just got to not screw up, right? So if I've got a client that doesn't feel like it needs to be done right now, I need to go back to the beginning of my presentation and fix that, because just trying to become a good objection handler is not going to serve me. All right. The best salespeople don't end up having many objections.
So, Gene, does every presentation that you give, every option that you present, every conversation that you have with a homeowner, are you always asking some form or variable of, do you think this is needed, or do you believe that you should have, like, are you always doing that?
Whenever I get an objection, like I want to think about it, I need to turn that into the real objection that it is, which is a price objection. Because if it were free, they would just go ahead and do it, right? So ask your question one more time. Am I always what?
Are you always asking, Gene, do you feel like this is something that you need on your system, or
Got it.
you put it more
Yes,
eloquently than I did.
absolutely. Whenever they give me an I want to think about an objection, it's always, do you really believe that any of this needs to be done? If I'm a technician, I'll show them the list.
Nate, you were asking if he always presents information in question form, right? Because he was presenting.
No, I'm specifically asking about that question. Do you believe that this is something that your system needs or that you want for your system?
Gotcha.
Yes, I have to ask that question. Because otherwise I'm being rude.
Right.
Just trying to close them.
That's right.
I fucked up. It's my job. Sorry, excuse the language, but as a salesperson, every sale you don't make, it's your fault. You got to take personal responsibility for it. They called you out there because they wanted it. And somewhere along the line, you either lost trust or didn't establish a need or weren't able to handle the questions that they had for you. Okay, so I have got to look at myself, and I got to stop being effing selfish and just trying to close a deal when I screwed up back here. So I need to know, did I screw up in the beginning? That's why the line of questioning. I want to think about it. You want to think about it? Yeah, we need to think about it. Got it. Is there any doubt in your mind that the work needs to be done? No, there's not. Now I need them to justify it. If they give me an opinion, I need them to justify it because I'm calling bullshit right now. I'm going to go, why? Why do you feel like it needs to be done? They're going to have a hard time telling me. And then once they have a hard time telling me, I'm going to come in and support them. And I'm going to go, you're right. It is old. It's inefficient. Parts are hard to come by. When we find them, they're expensive, right? So I agree with you. It needs to be done. Is there any doubt in your mind about my ability to do the job right for you? No, there's not. Why, Gene? Well, because of this or that or the other thing. And then I'm going to give them 3 or 4 more features and benefits of doing business with my company. And then I'm going to get down to brass tacks and I'm going to go, how do you feel about the money? And that's when it's going to come out. But remember, if you're a comfort advisor or something like that, there's something called burying the objection, right? When they finally come out with it's the price or the money, I'm going to go, I got it. So it's not so much that you needed to think about it. You already thought about it. It's the money. Now, why would I do that? Why would I bury that objection, Brian?
You're saying why that you would do it, and why would you do it?
Yeah. Why would I go, I got it. So it's not so much that you needed to think about it. You already thought about it. It's the money.
Just exposing that it's not really the case.
Well, and what can they not tell me again if I say it's not so much that you needed to think about it?
Creating like a cognitive dissonance situation.
Well, I'm not that smart, Brian. I don't even know what those words mean.
Well, so you're getting them to say they don't really need to think about it. So now they can't say later, I need to think about it.
And so that later I can go, when they say I want to think about it again, I can go, hey, Brian, do you remember earlier when you said it wasn't so much that you needed to think about it, you already thought about it, it was the money. Would it be all right if I tried to help handle that with you?
Yeah. So good.
Right? Keep it on the issue, and it keeps them from being able to go back to a former I want to think about it. But if you don't bury I want to think about it, you're effed, right? You got to go, oh, okay, got it. So it wasn't really so much that you needed to think about it. You thought about it. It's the money. Can you say more about that? And now they're going to say more about what it is about the money that's a problem for them, and then I'll know how to handle it. Right? Again, This is why I said, Nate, if you listen to a client, they'll tell you how to close.
So good, Gene, and I would love to stay here even longer and dig in deeper, but time is slipping away from us, and I did want to get to the place where we're talking about the mature techs. So as you've gone across the country and you've met with high producers and hyper performers and, $5, $6, $7, $8 million a year guys and beyond, I'm sure you're coming across some of those guys who are super good. Like they have so much ready to go. They got a great process. They're dialed in. They know exactly what they're doing, but they just need kind of that last little edge. The difference between being first place at the Olympics and being fifth place at the Olympics. We might be talking about a thousandth of a second, a tenth of a second, but there's something there that's just not quite enough to get you across that finish line. Talk to those people out there who are already real dialed in and they're just looking for one more thing to say, here we go.
So I love this topic. It's one of my favorites because top performers out there, and I'm going to classify, I'm not going to say top performers. I'm going to classify like top performers as people that are doing 5 million or more. Okay. I'm going to talk to the guys that are doing 2-3 million a year right now. Right. That might aspire to do more than that. And I'm not going to talk to the cocky guys right now that think that their crap doesn't stink, right? I still need to learn every single day. I need to learn. I need to become better. So when you stop growing, guys, you're dying, right? So please open up your ears and just listen to a couple of things here, because this is super important. This could add another $1 million or $2 million a year to your existing revenue right now. I literally take guys that are doing 2.5, 2.7, and I'll literally double their sales within a year. Okay. Stop selling value. Okay. Make sure that the client does feel like that there's a need. But when you're sharing about why somebody should do business with you, for instance, if we got all the way down to the point, Nate, where you were like, hey, Gene, yeah, it's a lot of money. And I went, do you have that much money? And you're like, yeah, I do, but my neighbor got one for $5,000 cheaper. And so I need to compare apples to apples. This is where the top performers sometimes get hung up. I'll go, got it, Nate, that's not a problem. Before I take off, would you like to know why more people choose us for this type of work, regardless of any difference in price? I'm going to get permission to share with them why we're more money. All right, this is huge. When you get permission, they'll open up and they'll listen to you. But if you just try to jam it down their throat, you're going to be screwed, right? If they say, if I'm quoting 20 grand and they're at 15 grand, my neighbor got one for 15 grand. Got it. Would you like to know why more people invest $20,000 in a new home comfort system with us when they can get a furnace and air conditioner down the street for 15 grand? Yes, I'd like to know. Now you're going to hit them with features of the company, but not just features. This is where the better guys are messing up. They're saying stuff like, we're in over 10,000 homes a year, and they're expecting that to work. We do drug testing. We do criminal background checks. We prioritize warranty calls. We have a no lemon guarantee. Congratulations, you're spitting out features. Features are not what sells. It's the benefit that the customer receives by having that feature built into the company. Okay? So if I say we prioritize warranty calls, I've got to let them know what that means. Otherwise, they're free to make it mean whatever their brain decides it's going to mean, and you don't know what that is, right? So I'll go, we prioritize warranty calls. Most companies only run warranty calls Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 o'clock. But when you use us, you get a speed pass to the front of the line, and you get service right away. Boy, do you think I might pay a little bit more for that? Our technicians are all criminally background checked nationwide. Were you aware that the number 1 and number 2 trades being taught in the prisons today are plumbing and air conditioning? But with our company, you, your family, and all of your belongings are safe, right? We're in over 10,000 homes a year, which means that we know the codes and the climates and the construction. Your house is not going to be a testing ground or a training lab. We do this all the time, and it gets done right, like 99.9% of the time, like that. Okay, like I got to share the benefits of doing business with them. We have a no lemon guarantee, which means that if in the first 5 years, you hear me saying, which means that in the first 5 years, if anything goes wrong with your compressor or your heat exchanger, we don't just replace those parts, we replace the entire piece of equipment, which is going to give you peace of mind. I'm going to hit, and guys, you need to have at least 12 of these locked, cocked, and ready to rock, right? Because normally around 7 or 8 features and benefits when I'm doing this with the client is where they stop me and they go, Gene, we see the difference. Let's go ahead and do this with you. And if they don't, if I'm able to get to 12, and by the way, I've got 35 of these ready to go. I've never been able to get through all 35 and not close a deal, right? Most of the time they stop me at 7 or 8. But if I get to 12 and I don't have any more, I'm going to do a trial close, Nate, and I'm going to go, Nate, can you see now why more people choose us for this type of work, regardless of any difference in price? And if he says yes, I'm closing. I'm going to go, and do you want us to take care of it for you then? Yep. Nod like a mofo, like a bobblehead, right?
Yeah.
Right? So that's what I'm seeing around the country is missing from the guys that are doing 2 to 3 million, and it's keeping them from getting to 5, 6, 7, $8 million. And I've coached these $8 million, $9 million guys to get there. So best answer I can give you, Nate.
So, Gene, what about the ridiculous? Okay, so I mean, it's no surprise we've talked about on our show before. Many of other people have talked about tough times in the HVAC industry in 2023, right? So there's a lot of price cutting going on out there. A lot of I just need the work type pricing being put out there. So, hey, Gene, hey man, I appreciate what you're bringing here. Like, there's a lot of good stuff, man. But dude, the guy I had in here last time, he is literally half. He is half of your price. Do you still bring back all those features and benefits? Because like at some point, all the features and benefits in the world, if I'm getting like for like product, it's a lot harder to overcome that, right? I mean, if somebody cut themselves at the knees just to get the job, just to keep a guy busy, and they're not even making money on that job, is there a way of overcoming that, or is that a lost cause?
Of course, there's always a way of overcoming it. It doesn't mean that you're going to close every deal. Like, I'd like to think I'm going to close every deal. Like 85% of the people in the world, statistically, from what I've read, buy based on perceived value, and 14% buy solely on price. That being said, I've closed those people too, right? But yes, features and benefits is a huge part of that. But I would say, based on what you're talking about right now, like just word to contractors and owners out there, my personal opinion and some of the other mentors that I have is that right now in 2023, going into 2024, you really better strengthen the service side of your business. Okay. Because the banks have tightened up, and they're going to tighten up more, and there are going to be people that they will not approve for $20,000 or $25,000 anymore. You're going to want to look at leasing programs. Those are going to help a lot, right? But you want to make sure that you're able to get your service department as strong and as profitable as possible right now, because some people are going to get wiped out who have got 80-90% of their revenue that's coming from replacements. This shit can happen overnight, guys. I saw it in 2008 when I was in business. Everything changed literally in the matter of a couple days, right? So, but bro, like the only way to handle that is with features and benefits and creating doubt. That's a big thing. Like, also finding out, is price your only concern? That's a good question. If somebody's questioning the price, is price your only concern? How would you respond
Gene,
to that?
before you jump into that, like when you say creating doubt, are you talking about bad mouthing the competition?
No way, Jose. I would never, ever do that, right? But I'm going to create doubt, right? A real amateur way to do it is, I'm sure you guys have heard this, is, well, what are they not doing that we are doing? That's not going to work. Okay, that's never going to work, right? But you do have to create doubt about doing business with somebody else. Would you like to know why more people choose us for this type of work, regardless of any difference in price? When I do that, and I can list off 30 different reasons that people choose us as opposed to other people, that is creating doubt, right? When I say all of our guys are background checked, did you know that the number 1 and number 2 trades being taught in the prisons today are plumbing and air conditioning? But with us, you, your home, and your family and your belongings are safe, right? I'm creating doubt about doing business with other people, and chances are pretty good that people that are working for those lower numbers could potentially be in that category. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yep. Yeah, so it's the case,
right? I'm creating a fear of doing business, like home warranty companies. Like, I want to create a fear of what that process looks like while I'm out there, right? I've got a home warranty company. First of all, I would talk to the home warranty company, but I'm going to describe the process, the lengthy process that takes about 3 weeks of getting your shit fixed, as opposed to me being able to do it right now. So you've got to create doubt about doing business with other people. When was the last time that you bought something that was the best quality product, came with the best service and warranties, all at the cheapest price? When was the last time?
Love that.
Are
Love
you
that
the type
question.
And then how about this? How about just asking a customer flat out, since we know that 85% of people buy based on value, how about asking them, is price your only concern? Or how about this? You don't want the cheapest, do you? and look at them like a dog with their head sideways. Like when I heard that from a lady in Dallas, Texas, name's Tiffany. She owns a med spa, and like people come in and they're like, "Oh my God, your prices are 3 times higher than everybody else." She goes, "Well, honey, you didn't want the cheapest, did you?" Like, and immediately people flip. Right? Do you always buy the cheapest stuff?
Right. Do you ever concede that the price is very attractive? Like, wow, that's an extremely aggressive price, or like, does any form of that ever enter the conversation?
No, I'm concerned. I'm concerned about what's not going to happen. I'm concerned about the people that are going to show up. I'm concerned about what training or lack of training they have there to protect the customer. I'm concerned about whether or not they're going to have the proper insurances and proper licenses. And they're actually going to have guys that are, not like didn't just show up today and don't have workers' compensation insurance. Like those are my concerns for the client, because I just know that there's no effing way that somebody can come in and do something half the price of me and make any money at all. When I look at, my companies have been the highest priced companies in my markets, and I'm struggling to make a 20% net sometimes, right? How are they doing some shit for half as much as me and actually going to be able to service the client in the future? It's not going to happen. Though you guys need to get it through your heads that the guys that are out there offering stuff half as much as you are in serious trouble. They're in serious trouble, and it might not be this year, it might not be next year, but those guys will have big financial problems, and they will get bought out by somebody else, and everything will be restructured. There's no free lunch. There's absolutely no free lunch. And if you're looking to go to a company that's got cheaper prices so that you can be more successful, I promise you will not be. It doesn't matter if you can't sell a furnace for 10,000, you cannot sell one for 5. I'm just telling you. That's how it is. And these are very basic principles that you need to learn. Guys, it is easier to learn sales, in my opinion, than it is to learn the technical side of our trade. I really, truly believe that.
Yeah. But the challenge is you actually have to learn it. And most people think it happens by osmosis, or you're either born with it or you're not born with it. But you will have to study and learn and be taught. Why we promote
need resources like the Waste No Day podcast,
like Lead Ninja, like so many, like for real. And we talk about it all the time on here, that you should be spending money investing in yourself, in your presentation. You should be spending money with someone who teaches people how to present, because it fast forwards your career without fast forwarding the time it takes to get there. And for the most part, most people aren't going to get there on their own. They're just not going to.
No, sir. I didn't. I'm not somebody who's super, super smart, guys. I'm really only good at a couple things, and this is one of them. But I've studied the shit out of it, and I geek out about it. But you're 100% right, brother. We need people to help us to compress time, and I'd rather learn from somebody else's mistakes than to have to go through the heartache and pain of making my own. So that's why I said in the beginning, when I'm looking for people, I want people that are humble, and I want people that are hungry. If they're humble and hungry, that means they'll listen, and I can have a lasting impact on them. And guys, until you have taught somebody how to fish and watched the seen and felt the joy that comes from a transformation in somebody's life, you have not lived. Okay, you don't know sales until you begin to teach it. So if you are a $3 or $4 or $5 million sales guy out there, don't be selfish. Share yourself, share what you're doing with your people, pour into other people, and I promise you, you'll see your sales numbers go up.
So certainly we want to talk about how people can get in contact with you and get that proper training that you speak of, and that you so graciously now 3 different times have come on the show and shared for free. And this is literally is for our trades world-class training for free, to the point that after you came on the first time, Nate and I and the management team we were part of in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, paid a handsome sum to have you come in and train our people. And not
it was
one
a little
person,
over $50,000.
Yep. Not one person
at the time.
would take that back. And to the point that your second episode, the jargon episode of Waste No Day, is required as part of my training for any new tech.
Dude,
because
that's awesome.
The main thing is the main point that was made on that episode that we just went hammered over and over and over was, do not call the product what it is, call it what it does for the client. And that's such a big part of any professional high producer's life. The Breathe Easy package. He's showing us a cup right now. His Yeti is a Breathe Easy, and that's what he calls IAQ packages for those in the HVAC world. But before we get there, you talked about, it is a little bit tougher times in the industry across the board, but certainly HVAC is getting hit the hardest. And I know we love to talk about innovating on this show, and we love seeing new innovations. And you are part of a small but hopefully impactful movement in the trades right now that are talking about. Why don't you tell us what you're talking about? But moving certain parts of the business toward a new innovation in this space.
Yeah, and you're right. Right now, it is small because most people have never ever heard about what you're talking about right now. And what Brian's talking about is that Lead Ninja, my company, has got a conversational artificial intelligence. And so, Nate, I know you haven't been prepped on this at all, but imagine a world where I am programmed into a robot who has a voice that sounds phenomenal. And I take all of my knowledge that's up here in my brain and I put it into its brain. And it's able to dial out to existing customers of HVAC, plumbing, electrical clients. And it's able to outbound to existing clients to book them on the schedule for maintenance and tune-ups, right? And imagine a world where it could work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if I wanted to book the schedule right now, I could make one call or I could make 1,000 calls all at the same time. And within 5 minutes have my schedule completely booked. That's the first module that we've almost got completely done right now, and we are testing it with clients right now. So it's making outbound telephone calls to existing clients, booking maintenance for them, and bringing those customers in so that we can sell them maintenance agreements. We can help them with IAQ replacement systems, water treatment, electrical panels, all that other stuff. So it's a conversational AI that will call your clients. And I can call 10,000 of them all in 10 minutes if I want. Like, it's never been able to be done before. So that's module number one that we've built. The next one that we're working on right now is to handle the inbound calls from eliminating the answering service challenges that a lot of us have. Like, imagine where a robot can just handle all that and it sounds like a human and it can book things on your schedule and everything can be completely automated. And you don't have to worry about having an answering service that sounds like on one call sounds wonderful and on the next call sounds like Lurch from the Addams Family. That was what I was dealing with. That was what I was dealing with my company. So we're handling outbound calling, we're handling inbound calling, all with artificial intelligence, all synced to calendars, all synced through Service Titan, House Call Pro, whatever it is, high level, and we're literally making outbound and inbound calls. We're twice as effective already, twice the conversion rate of some of the best outbound sales teams out there, and one fifth of the cost. So when we talk about things getting, Nate, getting tighter or harder in this industry for business owners specifically, this is going to be a way to reposition certain people in your company to do other tasks that maybe aren't being done right now and plug in an intelligence that can do a job twice as good as them for 1/5 of the cost.
Okay, so you say it's 1/5 the cost, Gene, but depending on the size of the company, depending on how many calls we need booked, like that kind of thing, inbound, outbound, what kind of cost are we talking about?
Really good question. So here's an example. So there's an upfront cost, right? And the upfront cost would be essentially it's all my intellectual property, right? I'm programming Gene, Slade, and Lead Ninja and every bit of training I've ever written or trained any human to do. And I'm putting it inside of this artificial intelligence, and it can duplicate itself as many times as we need to. So I can have 1,000 agents making telephone calls, right? So from a
It's
price
getting scary now, buddy.
It is.
I'm seeing flashes of Terminator 2 over here.
I didn't sleep for probably a week when I first encountered the technology and decided to put it to work. Like, it terrified the shit out of me, but I'm not scared of it anymore. But from a money perspective, right now it's 12 cents a minute on outbound calling. So if I have an agent representing one human being talking for 60 minutes or 60 minutes out of an hour, like constant talk time, no dead silence, no dead air, right? I'm looking at just a little bit less than $7 an hour. Okay. For something that I program once and it doesn't make mistakes, but if it makes a mistake, if I can break it, I can fix it with ones and zeros and it never makes that mistake again. I don't have to double, triple, quadruple train people. I don't have to constantly recruit and hire and train, right?
How much do we have to pay for their health insurance? You didn't mention that part.
Zero.
Oh,
There's
what?
no baby mama or baby daddy drama. It doesn't need a smoke break. It doesn't need to go pee. It doesn't call in sick. It doesn't need holidays. There's no employment insurance or no insurance on it. No workers' comp. None of that stuff. But cost-wise, so the outbound is 12 cents a minute. Inbound is like 32 cents a minute. So it's like $17 an hour for if it's talking 60 minutes out of the hour handling your telephone calls. Okay?
Wow, that's phenomenal.
So how much does that one person cost you? If you've got 2 or 3 of them, it's probably costing you 40, 50 grand a year for that person by the time you look at benefits and the taxes and all the other stuff, right? So from a operational standpoint, it's phenomenally cheap. And I can get anybody a license to program it themselves. If you want to hire computer programs and stuff like that, I can give you a license for free. You want to come through me because I hold a master license. And if you don't come through me, then you're going to be dealing with not having priority on servers and things like that, which will create latency. It'll create lags, and you don't want that. But anywhere from free to over 100 grand, depending on the package, right? But in order to really justify that, we would need to go beyond what we're doing with just outbound and inbound, right? We would want to talk about the fact that we've creating a review module where after the technician leaves, CRM notifies AI and automatically it calls the client. It does some survey questions, and then it asks them on a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate our service and why? And if it gives us a 5, we take the snippet of whatever they said, their own words, text it over to them, text them the link. All they got to do is copy and paste now, and the review is done. Okay. Now, Nate, before you get too excited, I see you getting excited over there, and I know it's late, but imagine a world where we had a sales follow-up bot. I've been teaching people to do this for years. It calls your customers up and goes, hey, this is Gene with 1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning. Just had a couple of questions for you about the survey or about the work that was done earlier. I'm part of the quality control team. Did they show up on time? Did they call you half an hour prior to arrival? Did they explain everything in a way that's super crystal clear? You understood it all. Got it. Before I let you go, I saw there's some stuff on the job that you decided not to do. Would you mind sharing with us why? They always tell us over the phone. Now I just put in my other scripts and it closes them right now, sends them finance paperwork, and we schedule the job.
Man, that's crazy, Gene. That's exciting stuff. In my mind, everything that you talk from a concept level sounds incredible and absolutely revolutionary. Where is it possible for somebody who's interested in this to get a demo? Because, the one thing that stands out to me is I've heard some bad AI. I've heard some bad experiences with AI, and that's a great way to really tick off a bunch of your customers. So it needs to be dialed in. And for that to ring true to me, I need to hear it in action. So is there a way that people can get a demo of this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I can have it call anybody that I want as long as I have their cell phone, their email, and their name, right? So there's a couple ways to do that. Number one, we've got recorded calls that are real calls that we literally have put on my Facebook page, and I can send people, right? So you can actually hear it having conversations. One of the conversations recently, Nate, before the customer let the AI off the phone, I'm gonna die here. You know, the AI goes, "I've got a question for you before I let you go." And the AI goes, "Go ahead. I'd love to answer any question you need help with." And he goes, "It's about your eternity." He says, "I was wondering if you were to leave this earth today, do you know if you'd go to heaven or hell?" and the AI didn't really understand at first, and he goes, could you please add a little bit more context to your question? And once it understood what it was saying, it went, "Oh, Dale, I understand exactly what you're talking about. If I left this earth today, I don't have a preference for where I would go. It's a topic that's up to personal beliefs and something else." And the guy goes, "Well, I just want to let you know that Jesus loves you and he died on the cross for you." And it went, "Dale, I really appreciate that. I appreciate the sentiment. Is there anything else that I can help you with about your furnace tune-up today?" He goes, "No, that was all." He goes, "Have a great day, Dale." And he let him go. Like, it's phenomenal. And the coolest thing is that it's better on the next call, on the next call, on the next call, on the next call. So I need people to help me break it. We're in the process of trying to break it every day. And so for all of you that are skeptical about AI, number one, I can tell you it is a bitch. It's tough. I would not try to program it myself. I'm just telling you that right now. I would go with somebody who's been programming it like we have been. But once it's done, once it's fixed, once it's locked in, it is an absolute game changer. And I've got a question that I would just ask you to ask yourself. Is this something that's going away?
No, absolutely not.
If it's not something that's going away and you're going to eventually have to jump on it to try to keep up with your competition, why would you not stay ahead of your competition, even if the road was a little bumpy?
Fair question, Gene. So if I am interested, where's the best place to go to learn more about, do you have a name for this product?
Yeah, well, right now we're calling it Lead Ninja AI. Some people have suggested some other names, right? Mainly my wife. She's like, "Call Gene AI." I'm like, "No, call Brittany AI." No, right? But right now you can go to, the best way actually is to just text me. I'll give you my cell phone number right now for anybody that wants to text me. And yes, this is my personal cell. It's 239-848-6533. I'll give it one more time, 239-848-6533. You can also go to a landing page that we created that's leadninjaai.com. Leadninjaai.com. I'm hoping I'm giving that right. I'm praying that I'm giving that right.
Well, Gene, I know that that's a new and upcoming portion of what you do, but you've dropped so many pearls for us today in terms of sales and sales acumen and everything that goes into that. And of course, that is the originator of what you have been doing for the past so many years.
Yes, sir.
If people are interested in that, explain, do you do one-on-one coaching? Is that a business only model? What does that look like? And how do we make connection there?
There are a variety of products, Nate. Again, everything from free to on-sites that can be six figures. Best way to find out about that is, again, just text me, 239-848-6533. I'm not concerned about giving out my personal cell phone number. That's why God created a block button. If you're a jerk, I block you, right? Otherwise, text me and call me and let's talk. And if I don't have the time to have that conversation with you, I'll put one of my team members on it, and they'll show you what we have available for you.
And when you do that, make sure that you let Gene know that you heard about it here. So that's a good feedback loop for all of us.
For sure.
Yeah, because he's gonna if we get enough, he's gonna give us the AI bot to use at our companies,
right? Well, listen, guys, you've done a lot for me, and so this is a conversation I would love to have with you guys personally because you've been so kind to me. So if you guys have got any interest in that at all, and I'm sure that you do, let's text after this conversation and let me give back to you.
Great.
Is that fair?
Well, it is fair, Gene, and you've already done that for us and so many of our listeners. It's been great to have you on today. We really appreciate everything that you brought to us. Just a solid refresher for some who've already heard you, or a mind-blowing experience for some people who haven't. It's always good to have you on, and we appreciate what you've done today.
I love you guys. I appreciate you guys.
Hey, tell Brittany we said hello. Good talking to you, Gene.
Will do, sir.
That's a wrap for today's show. Always good to hear from Gene. It's been a while, and man, was I forgetting how good he is, and just so much of the content, the questions, the mirroring, the tonality, everything is so developed and so just dialed in. He makes it smooth like butter, and yet it has taken him years to get there. But that is a service that he offers, and something that we recommend you check out. And if not, at least put into practice the stuff that he talked about today. So good there. And of course, we love bringing you great content. Let us know what you thought about this episode, as we always are looking to hear from your feedback and what you enjoyed. And of course, we want to leave you now with our weekly challenge, which remains the same: to choose to wake up every single morning and waste no day.